And the most likely podcast to rock your face off is the one that you're listening to right now. This is TV Guys. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And today we are talking about some TV superlatives. Now, I don't know about you, Brian, did you ever have, like, when you were in high school, did you ever have, like, that, hey, what's your most likely person to, did you ever do that when you were in high school?
No, we didn't do that. The closest thing was when I was a senior in high school, our youth pastor, who's also my brother-in-law, got like all the seniors and said, like, I give you a word that describes you, and like it was a weird thing like that.
Yeah, what a weirdo. So weird. Just giving out words like candy. I didn't have one either, and I'm kind of convinced that like schools don't actually do this, but somehow they must have at some point, and people got in their heads like, oh, this is a thing to do. I don't know.
I can see it being problematic because there's always going to be some people like, oh, I didn't get the best this, now I'm sad. Or people like, oh, you get the best to be a total failure or something. Yeah.
Most likely to go to jail. Oh, that's me. Great. Maybe that should be on here. Most likely to go to jail. The entire cast of The Sopranos. All right. Well, hey, we posted actually on our Facebook to get some of your input to see, hey, what would be some good superlatives we can talk about? We got a lot of answers from one person, and so we'll talk about a couple of those, and then we'll give a few of our own.
I think you should give her a shout out if she's our main contributor.
Nope, that's it. She doesn't get anything. No, from my sister-in-law Trisha. And my wife also added a couple on there, but yeah, Trisha just like hijacked the post. She's like, you know what? I'm going to say all of them. So
we welcome any contribution, no matter what form it takes.
That's true. Well, maybe that's not completely true. We might not take the bad contributions. Like, I'm going to come on and just be terrible. Okay, we don't take that.
Gotta take it all good and bad.
I don't know if that's true. This is not the facts of life. All right. Well, hey, let's get into it. Let's talk about some of these superlatives here. So first one, again, from Trisha, and like I said, we'll have some of our own too. So This one was from Trisha, where she said most likely to mispronounce words. Her vote was Schmidt from New Girl, which I disagree with, even though he has the ability to mispronounce them. What did you go with?
I went with the classic Joey Tribbiani.
Nice. See, that's a way that I could have gone with for, like, you know, the stupid angle. Mm-hmm. Like, I just watched the episode of The Good Place with Jason where, you know, they say something about claustrophobia. Oh, and he's like, why would anyone be afraid of Santa Claus? And it's like, oh, the Jewish.
I think that, side note, the line of he's saying, oh, the Jewish, kind of like saves it from being such a cliche joke.
It is. Although, like, the claustrophobia joke itself, that one itself is pretty good. I like that. I didn't see that coming, personally. Mm-hmm. But I also, for, like, my backup, one of the honorable mentions I would have talked about would have been another stupid one where it's like Penny. You know, from Big Bang Theory. Yeah. And hers is more because she hangs out with scientists. So hers is more like trying to use bigger words that aren't so much in her vocabulary. Yeah. So she has a better likelihood in my chance if we're talking just about pure odds. But I actually went with a pseudo-intellectual, quote unquote. And I said Ted Mosby. Because this is a guy that's going to mispronounce words on purpose that he thinks the pronunciation is right. And there's no way you can talk him out of it. They even have like the episode about the encyclopedia, that sort of encyclopedia versus encyclopedia thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually consider Ted as well. I was like,
good call.
And I also considered Schmidt because I forgot that Trisha put that on Facebook. So I thought of everyone's answers.
Look at that. You are just a thinker. So there you go.
I'm just naturally the best. If it was the best person at thinking of superlatives, it'd be me.
I've got so many answers for this. It's great. All right. Let's jump into most likely. Again, this is from Trisha. Most likely to pull an awesome prank. What do you got?
I consider this because there's an obvious answer that obviously comes to mind. I don't know if that's yours, but I was like, you know what? That could easily be a good one. I decided to go. I don't know if it has to be fictional characters, but I decided to go with Joe Gatto.
Oh my gosh, that was my pick too.
Practical Jokers.
All right, why'd you pick Joe over, say, like Jim or Winston? Because those are other really high uh, performers in this area.
Well, with Winston, okay, his pranks are funny to an outside audience, but the pranks themselves are not actually awesome. Because he either goes too high or too low.
Fair.
Whereas, obviously you think of Jim Halpert, but I think Jim has like 99% of it. It's only to Dwight. Like he's only going to do these pranks to Dwight. Whereas Joe has three different targets, and I feel like Joe could be convinced to do a prank on anybody.
Yeah.
I recently watched the Impractical Jokers movie, and first of all, it's hilarious that they try to pretend that these 45-year-old guys were in high school in the beginning, but I just could see that coming from Joe.
Yeah. I like with Joe, like you can see, because some of it when you're watching Impractical Jokers, like, well, how much of this is Q's idea? How much of this is, I know that they also do like brainstorming sessions outside of it where they have writers for the show to come up with stuff that they come into it with. But Joe, like you can tell sometimes, like for instance, the tattoo punishment is a great example of this
Yeah,
because he got to punish the other three, and this was all on Joe. And so you see that Joe, like he has the three different types of humor in it, where he mocks Q and his personality of like he's 37, lives with three cats, lives alone, and then making fun of the Murray, like the ferret thing, and his classic jumping out of the skydiving,
yeah,
and then just out of left field for no reason decides I'm gonna put a photorealistic image of Jaden Smith
yeah.
on Sal's thigh. And I love Sal, like, this doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah, and then for him to do it again years later, so now he's got matching Jaden Smith tattoos.
It's so funny. Yeah,
But
Joe is really good. He's got some of the greatest stuff that he'll come up with on the fly when he's like the do this or you fail sort of challenges.
yeah, and like there's an episode of Parks and Rec where they talk about how Andy could never be the new Jerry because he doesn't have any shame. That's Joe. Like also in the Practical Jokers movie, he played his character who was supposedly been like trapped in a cave for 30 years, and he comes out with this horrifying like mask on, and he doesn't care. He will make a fool of himself if it means for a good prank.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny to watch Joe embrace the punishments that he gets because
Yeah.
sometimes he doesn't embrace it, but when he does embrace it, like he goes full on and he just takes it way past anything that anyone thought he would. And I love watching Joe, so I
Yeah.
agree completely with you on this one.
The other one I briefly considered was Logan Huntsberger from Gilmore Girls, but you know what? It's easy to be a prankster when you have all the money in the world and daddy's lawyers to bail you out. So no.
You know, Joe might fall into this. He doesn't have all the money in the world, but he's well off. Plus, he's got producers he can fall back on of taking the brunt of crap. So,
That's true.
and then of course Trisha also brings up Jim when she mentioned this, and Jim is a great choice. If anyone's like saying I think the best prankster on TV is Jim, I'm not fighting you. Jim is a great prankster.
It's hard because like I don't want to like knock that, but I also don't want to be too predictable. Like, oh, Jim's doing the pranks. Like that's what everyone expects us to say.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's jump into the next one, which is, oh, I like this one. Most likely to get divorced.
So I have a
What do you got?
couple. I have a no, as in like a couple that I think will get divorced. I don't know if that's cheating or not.
Yeah, I have a couple as well.
All
And
right.
knowing it might be the same. Go ahead. Tell me which is the couple.
All right. The couple that finally got together and ran away at the end, Ryan and Kelly from The Office.
That is a great pick. I had completely forgotten about that, but you are 100% correct.
Yeah.
I can't, like, I've got it, to me, a good pick, but I don't think I can beat that. My couple, quote unquote, is the Wheelers. It's Ted and Karen Wheeler from Stranger Things.
Yes.
The parents of Nancy and Mike. Yeah. They are a bad couple. They're like,
Yeah.
They've been together so long that they're very familiar with each other, but they're so overly familiar, you can tell like all the romance is gone in their relationship. And
Well, I'm not sure how much was ever there because at one point Jonathan is telling off Nancy, saying like, "Yeah, you're just gonna end up like your mom and just marrying some schlub because he has a good job and not for love." So it's like, and she almost cheats on him with a high school student.
yeah, exactly.
It's an
And
odd choice. So like, really, this show is going that route, and then nothing really came of it.
which is good. You don't want to see that. That like the Wheelers, they are just bad, and they're bad parents too. But at the same time, there's a little bit of it that's like indicative of parenting in the '80s. There was
Yeah.
a lot. It was a lot more hands off than it is today.
Yeah, like I said, there was one, and two if you count Hopper, one parent who's like, "Where are my children? I need to know where my children are." And everyone else is like, I don't know. They went to someone else's house. I haven't seen them in a week. It's fine." Like,
They'll be okay. And if you grew up in the '80s, that is kind of how it was. Parents, once you reach a certain age, they trust you. Why do you think you have movies like Stand By Me that was like such a good representation of kids in that? Although that took place actually like 20 years before the '80s, so same
yeah,
thing.
it was made in the '80s, though, right?
It was, yep.
Yeah.
I also put, if we're talking about just an individual, I put Tammy from Parks and Rec because she has been, I think she was married a couple different times in the show. And also at the same time, like she would marry just to get back at Ron.
Oh yeah,
And so
for sure.
she has no respect for the sanctity of marriage in
No.
any way, any regard. So she is at the top. She doesn't even have to be married in order for her to make it on this list of top to get divorced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as soon as I thought of Ryan and Kelly, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Ryan and Kelly.
Yep. And then one more time from Trisha, her comment after most likely to get divorced was Ross, and that is of course a great pick, Mister 3 times.
And I've already made my controversial statement that Ross and Rachel were not the greatest couple, but I think in what we're supposed to believe of the show, it's supposed to be. I think we're supposed to believe that Ross and Rachel have their happy ever after. I don't think that if they were to come back with a reunion, I don't think they ever will because they've explicitly said they're not going to. That I don't think there would be another divorce storyline.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I think it's tired out at this point. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's already a little bit sad the guy has 3 divorces, but it would be even sadder for them to do it again, and also with the same woman, especially.
So. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Let's throw a goofy one in here from my wife. She stole this from the Dundies, but hottest in the office.
And it's not the show The Office, just hottest in the office in general.
Although my pick is from The Office, because I looked at some other Office stuff, but go ahead.
I actually have a male answer and a female answer.
Of course you do. All right, hit me.
The male answer, it's not Ryan from The Office. The male answer for hottest in the office, give me Mr. Jason Mendoza from The Good Place.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously, look at his bone structure. He's got like cheekbones for days.
He does. I can't comment on this. They do in the show, like they comment about like Jason and like whenever Tahani is like drawn to him, then Eleanor's like, I can't knock you. He's a hottie or whatever. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I think it was at different points they call everybody hot in that show.
Yes, yeah, I think they probably do. Mm-hmm. Chidi probably gets the least, but
yeah,
except Tahani for that, probably gets it the most.
True, except for at the end when he gives that sexy mailman calendar.
Oh, that's right.
As a going away present.
Yep. That's funny.
And my female answer goes back to one of the all-time crushes of 90s children, Kimberly the Pink Power Ranger.
There you go. I picked for like office type. I picked Pam. I'm a Pam guy. But I would also, if another candidate for hottest would be, I like what's her name from Simmons from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's this couple in it, Fitzsimmons, that they're 2 British like scientists, and they are like so interwoven that like when you first introduce them, they're almost like one character. They definitely give both of them good characterization as the show goes out, and then they do like a love story with them as well. But they're both really good characters. But she's British, and she's got a beautiful face, and so I mean that's all you need really. British women, like the accent is hot. I don't know.
That's not exclusive to women.
Man, Ryan, we are learning so much about you this episode. We need to talk more about hot guys.
You don't have
And
to. You don't have to be gay to appreciate objective hotness.
what was the Packer quote? If doing the scarn is gay,
If doing the scarred is gay, call me. Did he say the biggest queer on earth? Which would probably
I
very,
think you're right.
which is very PC, non-PC today.
Well,
Probably
that
not
is
even then.
Packer. That's completely Packer.
I know,
He
but
was
even
non-PC at the time.
I know, but today even is like it's not a good thing to. People don't like even having a non-PC character like a Todd Packer or a Pierce. Probably couldn't be on TV even today.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right. Here's a couple that I came up with myself that I thought would be fun to talk about. Let's do best cook. Who would you put as best cook?
Again, I considered Luke or Suki from Gilmore Girls, but then I landed on Marie from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Ooh, that's a really good pick.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good pick.
Because she's a meddling, manipulative mother, but from everything we've heard of, she has amazing recipes.
I know, seriously. It's like for the characters, how mad they get at her, they can't fight like her cooking.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the ointment of like salvaging any bad thing she does is if she cooks, then it's like, oh, all is forgiven.
And that's the
That's a
only
really
thing that
good
she
pick.
can. Yeah, that's the only thing that she has against Deborah too. Because Deborah's a good wife. It's just she's not as good of a cook. So Marie leans on that. It's like, well, you're cooking, okay.
Yeah. I mean, she also isn't, but they have younger kids too, so it's like different. But
Yeah,
Deborah isn't as good at like cleaning as well.
yeah.
Um, which again, that's not, that shouldn't be a knock against a person when you've got, I have four small kids, kids under the age of 10, although I can't say that anymore. My oldest is turning 10 this month. But I got four kids under the age of 10. And so I completely understand. No matter how good you are at cleaning, it doesn't matter because it's your house gets destroyed no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So that's almost unfair of Marie. My pick was for best cook. I went with a professional as well. That was, or not as well. You almost went with one. But mine was Monica
Okay.
from Friends because she is a high profile chef in like one of the central hubs. There's like a couple cities in the world that if you're going to be a chef there, you have to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like Paris, of course, is going to be the number one, but I would put New York City up there. If you're looking for fine dining in New York City, you have got to be really good. So I decided to throw her on there. But my out of left field pick as well for like a, if this one was taken or something like that, I also thought Schmidt would probably fit the bill because he even has
True.
like this time where it's Schmidt and his brother, and they even have like this cook off. They're
Yeah.
trying to show their manliness and assert that. And so when Schmidt is getting outperformed by his brother, he starts taking to showing how good he is in the kitchen. But his brother like owns up to it and rises to the level
Mm-hmm.
and takes it to that next stage. So
Yeah, and if you're going for the different definition of cook, you could also say Walter White was known to be the best cook.
I am not going that direction, but sure, we'll go there. All right, let's do best person to be stranded on an island with.
Again, I think your main answer has to be the obvious one, and which is Hurley from Lost.
That's not the obvious one for me.
It's not the
Hurley
obvious
would
one.
be a lot of fun to be
Yeah.
stranded on an island with,
Okay.
but I'm going for resourceful. So I'm finding someone like MacGyver. I think MacGyver would be the guy. If you guys don't know, like, I know we probably have a somewhat of a young audience in some regards. So I think actually our audience is probably more our age, but there could be people that are younger than us. If you don't know who MacGyver is, he is like duct tape for life. He can
Mhm.
fix anything. This guy was from the 80s. Like, the whole shtick of his show is like he could create a nuclear weapon out of like a rubber band, a couple paper clips, and a lighter. This guy can do the impossible. So I think he would be able to get us out of whatever situation we need. And even if we couldn't escape from the island, we at least would have the survival skills to make it an extended period of time.
I was going to say my backup was from a more contemporary show, but this is also a show that started 20 years ago. But Jack Bauer would also be kind of in that same vein.
I feel like my backup answer was also kind of like a cheat answer. I would pick Vision from WandaVision. Vision can fly, and he can take you off of the island with him, or he can go and get help, or he's very resourceful and very smart. He would know how to get you out of the situation.
Yeah, like half the Avengers can fly. You got Falcon, Iron Man, Thor. Like they all, like half of them can do that.
My yeah, I was gonna with Falcon, he kind of like more falls with style in a way, but like
Yeah,
I think he needs to like re-energize his suit or have like some sort of fuel or whatever. But I think your other ones are that way. I think I would have picked Vision because of not only the flying, but he's also very smart. I think that having both that Stark is too, but I think Vision is that. Plus, he doesn't eat, so you don't have to compete with. If you can't get off the island, you don't have to compete with another person and having to feed both of you, and also having to warm both of you with fire, and also both of you having to have shelter, etc.
yeah, that's true. I just think anytime you're like, ooh, best person to be stranded with, oh, I don't know, someone with a boat, like those kinds of answers are always like, I get what you're saying, but like respect the game.
Way to mock me. Jeez. Fine. The professor from Gilligan's Island.
There
He
you
can
go.
create a radio out of a coconut.
Allegedly.
Don't allegedly mean this. You know what? Fine. Let's go with, instead of best, let's go with least likely. Least likely to survive an apocalypse.
So I had a couple ideas. My ideas I did not go with. I thought I considered Tobias from Arrested Development. I realized
Great pick.
everybody in that family is like a cockroach. They never die, except for Julia Walter. But is that a bad joke?
No, a better joke would be, except for Michael's wife, Tracy.
Oh yeah, true.
I love how tone deaf the family is. We talked about like running gags last week, or actually we talked about foreshadowing, and then went into a little bit of running gags. But just the running gag in the Arrested Development about how tone deaf everyone is to Michael's wife having died.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Well, Tobias tells him, "Oh, you're the marriage expert. Oh yeah, that's right. Your wife is dead." It's like
that's so terrible. You can't say that.
But okay, I landed on least likely to survive an apocalypse unless she has her friends with her to rein her in would be Jess from New Girl, because she does not have survival skills, and like if it's zombies, she's gonna try to go and befriend the zombies.
She might think that she can love the zombie out of them.
Mm-hmm. Like, hey guys, I'm Jess. Let's try to make some arts and crafts. Ah, you're eating my face. Why'd you eat my face?
It's a great spot on Jess impersonation. I thought for a second Zoe Deschanel had joined our podcast and was talking to us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, she canceled.
Oh, well, that sucks. I went with someone who he is like this close to death anyway, but his name's Ted, and he's from Scrubs, and he's a guy that is a sad sack of a person that they play up his like suicidal tendencies for laughs. I think that if an apocalypse happened, that I think he would just welcome it with open arms, and even if he didn't, anything that he would try to do to survive would backfire in such a catastrophic way that he would die regardless.
Or he would somehow end up like the only one living.
There is that other side of it, like kind of like the Toby thing of like, everything that you do just makes your life worse, but you can't escape it. And so like he could try and die in the apocalypse and somehow he would become immortal. I don't know. That's his luck.
Mm-hmm. Or like everybody's dead. He's first. Everybody's dead. He's like, oh, well, at least I get to have some peace and quiet. And then all of a sudden, out of like the wreckage, Kelso shows up. Ted. And he's like, oh.
That's like that Twilight Zone ending. The guy who like wishes for everyone to be alone, like gone on Earth, so he can read books without getting interrupted, and then his glasses break. Yeah. It's just not fair. It's just not fair.
Also, we have to say R.I.P. to the great Sam Lloyd, who played Ted, who did die a couple years ago, or last year, I think.
Didn't he? I don't remember when it was, but yeah. I wonder if there's any relation to Christopher Lloyd.
I think it's his nephew. think he's Christopher Lloyd's nephew, if I remember
Because
correctly.
I can see resemblance there. Not
Yeah.
enough to be like, oh, this is for sure father son, but I can see similar. So
Was that your trivia?
that was not my trivia. No, I didn't know, so I was just guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I've given trivia based on flimsier understanding than that. Like, oh, guys, this is for sure correct, and then you guys like, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, that was, I think, all the categories that we came up with. So we had a couple of different ones. Anything else that you want to throw at me last second that we can maybe come up with a last minute answer?
Well, this is one we actually already answered, which would be like most likely to make a podcast about TV shows, which would be Abed.
That is like, I don't think there's a better answer than that. Abed would be 100% that way.
Mm-hmm. Or trying to think like most likely to be elected president.
Ooh, it's a good one. I mean, like, speaking of respecting the game, things that come to mind are people who are actually presidents in TV shows. Judd Bartlett from West Wing.
David Palmer. No, my thought was maybe Jack Donaghy.
Ooh, that's a really good pick. Yep, he would 100% be in that realm of thinking. I liked, real quick before I give you an answer, and I am partially stalling as I'm trying to think. Did you watch the What If episode this week? And by this week, I mean episode 7, so it's about 2 weeks old by this point.
I have not watched What If in several weeks. Sorry.
The one with Ultron is really good because the one with Ultron actually starts to tie in other episodes. And so there's actually continuation there. And you see them go into different multiverses. And so it's not just like one multiverse. And one of the multiverses that they go into, all of a sudden, like they're in Times Square, and you see on like the big jumbotron, Steve Rogers getting sworn in as president.
Huh.
I was like, hey, that's really cool. So this is a really good episode, and it's like left on a bit of a cliffhanger for number 8. So it's like, oh, now they're actually tying together a number of different episodes, and we're going to see how they come together in episode 8. So if you're listening to this and you've watched all that What If episodes, then you are now caught up. So, or like you've already seen it because it's already had its season finale. But for being elected president, I would say, you know, I kind of jump back to Schmidt because I think that Schmidt is like when Schmidt posed as a Romney. There is that one episode where he's helping them like Jess and Cece out with their Democratic campaign, like trying to raise money for Hillary's campaign, and then like he was mistaken for, or maybe he was helping out the Republican, I don't remember, but he was mistaken for Romney, and so then he pretends like he is. I could 100% see Schmidt. He's that driven to be in that sort of position. So I know I already brought him up before, but I think that's without much more thought, that's my answer.
Mm-hmm. And then he would definitely put Winston on staff somewhere in the White House in a position that doesn't have any power, but Winston would think he has power. And he would try
That's almost worse. That's almost worse to give Winston no power than to give him some power, because somehow he would weasel his way into actually having power by messing something up enough. And then it would just...
Like one of his pranks would be like, hey, you were having a private meeting, but I broadcast it to the country. And then they would try to do it with Nick, but then they would find something on his background, or he would say something dumb in an interview and he got on like the watch list or something.
By the way, Leslie Knope.
Yes.
There we go. Leslie. I don't know. Did they toy with the idea in the final season? I don't remember if they got that far.
Yes, I believe they hinted that either her or Ben was president when they went to Jerry's funeral in the flash forward at the very end when they jumped into everyone's futures.
That's right. So a little bit of cheating, but I mean, that's a very logical step for that show.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Not really.
Most likely to have trivia.
Again, Abed.
Janet from Good Place.
I take it back. That's a great answer.
She knows everything. Plus, there was that one time in the season one when Michael was trying to like give her different personality, and so one of them was having fun facts, and she like her fun facts are just terrible. And at one point, like she's like, "Fun fact, I just said that, me, Janet," or something like that. All right, but we do have trivia because last week we talked about Arrested Development, as we said earlier. And in Arrested Development, there was a cameo appearance or a guest star appearance by an actor who was on a show with David Cross back in a while ago called Mr. Show. They were a good comedy duo, and so it was David Cross and which actor, Brian?
Bob Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk. I saw those two together on an episode of Space Ghost Coast to Coast when Mr. Show was still on before they were big. And when he was introduced, Bob was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought my name was Bob Bodenkirk. I've been telling everyone that that's my name." And just like making fun. And so Space Ghost calls him Ba for the rest of the episode. It was just wonderful. But yes, Bob Odenkirk, if you don't recognize that name, or even if you do recognize that name but don't know who it is, that is Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Great actor. Glad that he's really breaking out now.
Who I first knew as Artillery Arthur, Marshall's boss in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, he has a lot of good TV roles. You'll see him pop up in a number of different shows.
Yeah, I just realized, one of those like visual puzzles. What you could do is you could have a picture of Sideshow Bob, a picture of Anthony Hopkins as Odin from the Thor movies, and then a picture of Sean Gunn, who's Kirk from Gilmore Girls, and like, oh, it's Bob Odenkirk.
I think you enjoyed that more than anyone else that is listening was ever going to enjoy it.
I know. I thought of it while you were talking.
I'm glad that you're proud of yourself.
I am proud.
Good for you, Brian.
Yeah. So unless you have one, I have a trivia.
Go ahead.
So my trivia is centered around something that's not so fun, which is people getting let go of shows or people leaving shows on bad terms. I mentioned Kimberly the Pink Power Ranger, who is one of the original 5 Power Rangers from the first season. She is actually the only one out of the 5 who left the show on good terms. Question is, how and why did the other 4 Rangers leave the show?
That is a great. We're asking trivia, not trying to get like an essay question on a test.
Well, it's a trivia. There's just 4 answers. Well, actually, 2 answers because 3 of them left all in one lump sum. There's your hint.
Okay, there you go. Well, that's it. That's the question. So have fun with that one, guys.
Want to tell them what we're doing next week?
Oh yeah. So what we are doing next week is we are going to be a little early on our Halloween episode, but we are going to do a Halloween episode. We're going to talk about what are some of the best costumes that we've seen on TV shows. Not costumes in terms of like, oh, WandaVision, they did a really good costume with Wanda. That was her classic, whatever. We're talking about like characters who dressed up for Halloween or who dressed up for everyday life or something like that, but they were wearing a costume. So what shows had characters wear good costumes? Well, hey, that is it. Let us know, what are your favorite superlatives? What would be some of your answers to these questions? Is there anyone that we missed? I'm sure there is, because there's TV that both of us have not seen. So there might be one of the characters on one of those shows who fits the bill. So let us know. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're in real life with phones and everything. Some of you guys even text us. But until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
I'm reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.